Fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact.
Pick your mans up.
And just because people used to come through shooting at us every day. And this block, words can't even explain, man. Can't even explain.
Yeah, man.
Little School Valley, 05 way on money.
Young Money, man. They in the building.
600 boy LA, man. LA Capone, man. Get it to him, man. OC2 boys, man. Team
Number 9, man. Number 9 shooter, you hear me?
Hey, bitch, little bitch. Yeah. Fuck is wrong with you? Hey, I am Brick Squad. Brick Squad, boy. Fuck is you talking about, boy?
You have to be willing to die or go to jail for 100 years if that's the lane that you're stepping in. You have to understand that whether you 15, 16, you got to think like a man. You know what I'm saying?
So don't be in it. Oh, you're not? Why does everybody say you're only 16 years old?
They say what they want to say.
How old are you?
300.
The Story of LA Capone. This is the story of LA Capone, a once rising star from 600 who early made a name for himself in Chicago's drill scene. LA's potential was truly limitless. He could have taken over the rap game if he hadn't been killed. However, this story isn't just about his music career, it's also about the work LA Capone put in on the streets. Many forget that LA actually was one of the most active members of 600 and was even rumored to have bodies under his belt. I can't believe I haven't done his story before. Enjoy.
I've been in the bed 7 fucking years.
LA Capone, whose real name is Leonard Anderson, was born on September 18, 1996, in Chicago, Illinois, to Tasha Morris and Leonard Anderson Sr. LA Capone grew up on the south side of Chicago but later moved to Atlanta, Georgia to live with his father, as his parents were separated. He spent his middle school years in Atlanta but returned to Chicago after his father's tragic death in 2009. LA was only 13 when his father was shot and killed by police on October 19, 2009. The incident occurred after deputies responded to a report of a suspicious person climbing a fence. When officers approached him in his car and ordered him to exit, he allegedly tried to drive toward a deputy, prompting the police to shoot him. While in Atlanta, LA attended middle school with future rapper Lil Yachty, who later spoke about their friendship and time together. LA also had a sister. After moving back to Chicago, heartbroken from his father's death, he enrolled at Dunbar Vocational High School. Dunbar was a dangerous environment for him. The school had very few BD allies, and large groups of GD-affiliated enemies targeted him regularly. LA was forced to fight several times a week, and the situation became so severe that Tay600 even dropped out of his own school to help him. By 2012, the tension escalated further, and LA, along with King Von and other BD members, reportedly shot at the school, an incident that will be discussed later.
You feel me? I had to drop out of high school, nigga, because folks knew while I was here, they was niggas from my hood wasn't standing on that business. LA going to Dunbar, getting his fucking brains beat in every week. I'm hearing about this shit while I'm in school. I'm hearing about all this shit. You feel me? I'm seeing this shit happen to my homie. I come back from the hood. You feel me? Motherfuckers getting that. Oh yeah, woo. They just call LA. I see LA. LA got fucking. He look like a skeleton, folks. On BD, both his eyes black, his nose got a bump in it, all type of shit, folks. You feel me? Like, they done beat my homie 3-4 times. I'm steady going to school out there. I can't even rock out with my nigga, folks. Cause folks so gangster, he gonna keep going to school because he ain't finna make them think they moved him out of school. You feel me? All type of niggas then stop going to school with folks. There was so many niggas in Dunbar that just all of a sudden, when the ops got in that bitch, like everybody wanted to go to Dunbar when the BDs was deep as hell in Dunbar. Soon as the ops fake made it a competition in that bitch, for them started getting up out of there. For them, it was all good. Everybody going to school every day when all the guys in that bitch. Soon as the ops migrated in that bitch and make it an even playing field, motherfucker getting up out of there. Niggas ain't even wanna got them be in that bitch. I'm for them. So LA going in that bitch, folks fighting, niggas ain't helping, niggas getting up out of there, acting like they ain't see niggas and shit. So,
as mentioned, LA was constantly in fights and had to defend himself at school. Even though a few BD and 600 members attended Dunbar, most didn't support him, leaving him to handle most situations alone. Tay 600 claimed that one member, Zhu Blow from 600, didn't help LA when he got jumped. However, LA's mother said that he used to hang out with Zhu Blow at home, along with JB bin Laden. Despite the lack of support, LA was a capable fighter and could hold his own. For instance, he reportedly fought FBG Butta and beat him up, according to his mom, who was friends with Butta's mother. Later, he got jumped at Dunbar because of that. LA and J Money from a block also beat up Lil J outside the school once. In short, LA's upbringing was extremely tough. His parents separated, his father was killed, he moved back to Chicago, and he faced constant fights at school. Not long after losing his father, LA began experimenting with guns, smoking weed, stealing bikes, and robbing people, starting his early path into the streets.
It'll be dry, it'll be ugly. I wouldn't see a lot of my big homies. They was hiding, ducking they shit, leaving a lot of my homies out here to survive on their own when we was shorties. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm like, cool, no. LA and his guys was not putting belt to ass. Folks them was letting LA get whooped in there, man, on Steve. Ain't nobody in Dunbar help LA not once. And there was niggas going to school with Dunbar. I be ready to say their name when I be getting mad on Steve. I already told y'all one person, but niggas that was going to school, LA ain't used to help him fight, boy, on Steve. 600 niggas didn't help LA fight in school. On D-Thing, boy. No, niggas wasn't getting busy. On Steve, niggas, LA was getting up there, getting caught, getting his ass spanked, and on BD, that was all that was coming from that shit, bro. And Vine did something about it on BD. Vine, a nigga from the WIC had to be like, oh yeah, we up there, folks, on BD. And then we started going up there, folks. But I'm all the way in Joliet. I'm not going to school with y'all every day to be like, hey, Vaughn, come on, we finna clap at they ass, folks. I'm in Joliet. V-Roy is here. You know what I'm saying? V-Roy is here, folks, on BD. So V-Roy is taking that shit in his hands, but ain't no 600 niggas help him do nothing. On BD, folks. Ain't no 600 nigga get on that night. When Vaughn got on that, 600 was on that. But a lot of niggas wasn't on that before folks got on that and when it did something about it. Vaughn, when it did something about that shit on Steve, boy. Y'all keep jumping on LA. All right, we coming up here clapping that.
Before we continue with LA Capone's story, let's take a look at the history of Brick City and 600. 600 was formed in 2009 by D Thang and Lil Boo, with territory spanning from 59th to 60th, between King Drive and Prairie. Before 600 came together, the group was known as Brick City. Their main block was 59th and Calumet, where a long brick alley stretched behind the buildings, hence the name Brick City. Back around 2005 to 2008, Brick City was made up of members who claimed both GD and BD. Some of the gangster disciples included 600 Breezy, Young Famous, Lil Boo, and Stello. On the BD side, there were members like Ide and C-Day from the Randolph Towers. D-Thang's older brothers, Trigger and Chief Domo, were also BDs, along with Huncho Hudo, AK, and Low from Brick City. At that time, it was truly a mix of both BDs and GDs, but that wouldn't last forever. Between 2007 and 2008, most of the members who would later become known as 600 jumped off the porch. Around that time, everyone was hanging out in an area that would eventually be called Front Street, though back then it was known as Dipset. The main blocks they hung around were 61st and Wabash, as well as Michigan and Indiana, the same territory that now belongs to the Front Street set. This connection is why so many 600 members have ties to Front Street. Members like Inky D, Manny, and Boss Moo were all from Front Street territory, though none of them actually claimed Dipset at the time. Most of the younger guys back then, including Rondo No. 9 and Lil Steve, claimed Bang City, also known as BCMG, before 600 was officially formed, since they weren't allowed to claim Brick City. As mentioned earlier, 600 was created in 2009 by D-Thang and Lil Boo. The main reason behind its formation was that D-Thang's older brothers, Chief Domo and Trigger, wouldn't let him claim Brick City due to his young age. So, D-Thang and Lil Boo decided to start their own thing, establishing 600 with themselves as the leaders. Once 600 began clashing heavily with the GDs from Mob and Jaro City, most of the remaining GDs from both Brick City and 600 were essentially forced to flip to Black Disciples. At that point, D-Thang and Lil Boo had practically implemented a no GD policy within 600. It's rumored that LA Capone started playing with guns in 2009, at just 13 years old, and began drilling for real by 2011, at age 15, following the deaths of both Baldy and Lil Steve. Around that same time, most of the younger 600 members also started getting active, while the older Brick City members, like Young Famous, Breezy, and Trigger, had already put in their share of work. What makes 600 so fascinating and almost mythical is how it was built. The members were essentially handpicked by Lil Boo and D-Thang, which is why 600 became as dangerous as it did. Nearly everyone in the set was active, everyone slid, everyone was a shooter, and everyone wanted a body. As LA Capone once tweeted, "You gotta catch a body to be a true 600 like me." C-Day, Rondo No. 9, Tay 600, Buka 600, D-Thang, Mineski, and D-Rose. Or, as he once rapped, "Whole team lurking, everybody wants a body." The first conflicts Brick City was involved in were mostly minor and personal disputes. Back in 2005 to 2008, these weren't the kind of serious, all-out wars between gangs that we see today. In fact, Brick City only lost one member during that time, Lil Steve, who was killed in late May 2011 by Mob, largely due to 600's growing beef with them. Once 600 began heavily feuding with Jaro City and Mob, Brick City inevitably got pulled into the war as well. To be fair, Brick City was already at odds with Jaro City before that. Between 2008 and 2010, they teamed up with 065 Young Money, who would later become Timp, and with Squirt Town to go against Jaro. Squirt Town often hung out around Brick City's territory, which made them frequent targets when Jarrow members came through to shoot up the block. Eventually, Squirttown retaliated by shooting one of Jarrow's top members, but that move sealed their fate. Afterward, Jarrow began sliding on them almost daily. The violence escalated until Domo from Jarrow City killed Slow Folks from Squirttown, and later, in late September 2011, Tutu from Jarrow City and Lil B from EBT caught Jizzle from Squirttown, shot him, stood over him, and killed him. Another conflict Brick City was involved in was their beef with Chieftown and Bully Gang, a feud that started before LA Capone got active in the streets, but it still holds relevance. The exact reason these beefs began is hard to pin down. Even some of the older members I've spoken to don't remember what sparked it, since it happened 12 to 14 years ago. Still, a few key details about the conflict are known. Chieftown was an older set that barely exists today. Most of its younger members now claim no law or Marcus Way, so only a few of the older heads still rep Chieftown. Bully Gang, on the other hand, later evolved into Von World, which then became Mob, the same group LA would go on to have a serious feud with. Von World was created in memory of Don Von, a Bully Gang member who was shot and killed by Blackgate in March 2010. Both of these conflicts essentially involved older generations of the same sets that continue to feud with 600, O Block, and Front Street today. One Brick City member who played a major role in these early beefs was the rapper Young Famous, now closely associated with Lil Durk and often seen in his music videos. On August 15, 2010, Young Famous allegedly killed Mojo from No Law / Chieftown. This rumor gained traction 2 years later when, on September 2, 2012, Lil Jock from 800 appeared to confirm it during a Twitter exchange with Lil Prince, also from 800. Jock tweeted, "I didn't even know he killed Mojo until last night," to which Lil Prince replied, "Who?" Jock responded, "7 bitch ass from The Reawakening." For context, The Reawakening was a Chicago show where Young Famous performed under the name 7. In fact, he still uses 7 in his Gmail for bookings today. E-Day and D-Thang's older brother, Trigger, was also rumored to have been involved in the hit. As I mentioned earlier, once 600 became active in their beef with Mob, STL/EBT, and Jarrow City escalated, most of the Brick City members began claiming 600 instead, and Brick City slowly became a thing of the past. Around this time, D-Thang and Lil Boo also enforced a strict no GD policy, which led many of the former GD members from Brick City to flip and become Black disciples. Since Brick City was already into it with Bully Gang, later Von World / Mob, and Jarrow, it's easy to see why 600 naturally inherited those same rivalries with Mob and Jarrow City. However, before Jarrow became what it is known as today, the area was split into smaller sets like ABM, Cobb, and Darkside. These groups later united to form Jarrow City after the death of Jarvis, the person the set was named after. Interestingly, during that earlier period, the Wick, which would eventually become a block, actually had decent relations with the BD side of Jaro City, mainly out of BD to BD loyalty. Meanwhile, Brick City was beefing with all sides of Jaro. Members like Skinny, Chief Geef, Motor, and King Von used to hang out together back then, before things turned sour. You can even find old Twitter conversations between Von and Motor reminiscing about when they used to chill together. Some GDs from ABM also drifted toward Wick City and hung out around Parkway, further blurring lines between the groups. This dynamic created tension between Brick City and Wick City, since Brick City was aligned with the SKD movement and was at war with all the sets that would eventually form Jaro City, even the BD side, which Wick was friendly with. On the flip side, Wick City was already beefing with the SKD movement and had even dropped bodies on them. This mutual hostility caused friction between Brick City and Wick City, though D-Thang and Lil Boo ultimately stepped in and prevented it from turning into a full-blown war. Now we move on from the story of Brick City to its successor, 600. Around 2009 to 2010, 600 found itself caught up in multiple conflicts, particularly with Jaro City, Mob, and STL/EBT. Let's start with the situation involving STL/EBT. To be fair, 600 and STL/EBT were never each other's main enemies. The two sets only traded a small number of bodies, maybe one or two confirmed, one of which was allegedly by D. Rose in December 2011. 600 often slid alongside O Block, and there were 600 members reportedly present during several notable incidents, when O Block killed Modell, when Cap FCK12 was allegedly there for the break and Kobe hit, and when Boss Trail was said to be around during the D-Thang situation with Domo from Jaro City. Some even claim STL/EBT was involved in Baldy's death, though none of that has ever been confirmed. Realistically, the total number of bodies exchanged between the two sets probably doesn't exceed 3. Back in the day, Brick City and STL/EBT didn't have major issues with each other until STL/EBT got closer with Wick City. They didn't like each other, but STL/EBT's main focus was on Wick City and Temp, while Brick City, and later 600, concentrated on Mob and Jaro City. Like many rivalries in that era, things between 600 and STL/EBT began with simple fistfights. Once Brick City and 600 started hanging around Parkway with Wick City, fights began breaking out. For example, Ide reportedly fought with C-Ball, and Duck got into it with Manny from 600. When Baldy was killed, many people, myself included, suspected STL may have played a role. Scrap from Mob and Main from STL are two names that often come up in those rumors. But regardless of who actually did it, what truly intensified the situation was the mocking that followed. Baldy's death was 600's first major loss, and soon after, Facebook and Twitter were flooded with jokes and memes about him, circulated by members from Jaro, Mob, and STL/EBT. That online taunting only fueled more hate between the groups. Around this same time, FBG Duck and Billionaire Black began dissing 600 in their music, and Ide fired back with his own shots toward STL. From that point on, it was basically on sight between the two sides. The wars with Mob and Jaro City are pretty straightforward. As mentioned earlier, Brick City was already into it with those sets, or with the groups that would eventually form Jaro City and Mob, so 600 simply inherited those rivalries. However, once 600 was established, The conflicts intensified, largely fueled by the rise of social media and the emergence of drill music, which was just starting to take off in Chicago at the time. One notable figure killed during the war between Jaro City and Brick City was Hottie. Many people have claimed that Lil Boo and Thang were responsible, though whether that's true remains uncertain. Personally, I doubt Thang was involved, considering he wasn't even allowed to be part of Brick City at the time. When Dome later said, "This is for Hottie," before killing D-Thang, I think it was more about avenging Hottie's death in general, not necessarily implying that D-Thang was the one who did it. Even Trigger, D-Thang's older brother, said that D-Thang wasn't behind Hottie's murder. What is known, however, is that Brick City was responsible for Hottie's death, though the exact member who did it remains unclear. This all happened nearly 14 years ago. The key point is that the wars between Jaro City and Mob were already active before 600 officially came together. But with the rise of drill culture, the internet, and younger members turning to guns instead of fistfights, the violence rapidly escalated. In 2009, Beans from Brick City/600 shot Gucci from Jaro City, an incident that earned him a 20-year prison sentence. From that point on, shootouts between 600 and Jaro City became an almost daily occurrence. Dome was shot by both Stelo and Inky D in separate incidents in 2010 and also got into gunfights with E-Day and 600 Breezy. At that stage, it was only a matter of time before bodies started dropping. "2011 was the year the war between 600, Jaro City, and Mob truly erupted. In 2009 to 2010, it was mostly shootouts, but by 2011, bodies started dropping. The first loss came in late May when Lil Steve from Brick City was killed in a drive-by, allegedly by Mob. 2 months later, 600 lost Baldy, reportedly to Mob and STL. Mob gave 600 a tough time that year. They always retaliated fast, and many 600 members hated sliding on them. Soon after, Mob and STL killed OD from Wick City, who was close with several 600 members, making that summer one of the roughest for 600. During that same period, the war with Jaro City was relatively calm. In early summer 2011, 600 and Jaro agreed to a truce after a shootout between 50 Shot and Lil Boo struck a school bus, bringing heavy police attention and RICO threats. The truce stopped the shootings, but not the fights or robberies. D-Thang still rode through Jaro's area taunting members, robbing guys like King Lil J and even taking TB's shirt, keeping Jaro on edge. After Baldy's death, 600 turned its focus to Mob. Meanwhile, Dome from Jaro City, tired of D-Thang's constant taunting, decided to act. With Boss Trell, already a known shooter, he tracked down and killed D-Thang, ending both his life and the truce between 600 and Jaro City. Police later reported Dome said, "This is for Hottie." He was arrested and charged, and in 2021, he took his own life in jail.
Already know, man. Jaro City, Hottie World, 50 Shots, man. Doing my thing, 2-2 gang. You know, Mr. Cash out on Hollow. Y'all thought it was over with, but I'm on my way back. Fuck the ops, fuck the cops, free me, motherfucker. L's.
Shortly after losing one of their founders, D. Thang, 600 suffered another major blow, the death of Lil Steve, Memo 600's brother, not the Lil Steve mentioned earlier. He was allegedly killed by Lil Scrap and Moochie from Mob, both of whom were arrested but later released due to lack of evidence. Like Thang's death, this was a huge loss for 600, and Steve Drive was later named in his honor. Lil Steve was known for being active in the streets. After Baldy's death, allegedly at the hands of Lil Scrap, Steve reportedly retaliated by shooting up Scrap's house after Scrap moved near 600's territory. A wild detail from that time is that Scrap's father would sometimes visit 600's block to beg them not to kill his son. On the day Lil Steve was killed, 600 got a call that Scrap was on the block. Lil Steve and a few others went to confront him, but Scrap opened fire. Steve was reportedly yelling at his crew to shoot back when he was hit. To make things worse, only a week later, 600 lost another close friend and affiliate, Jizzle from Squirt Town, who was killed by Q2 from Jaro City and Lil B from EBT. At first, 600 struggled under the pressure from Mob and Jaro City. But soon, the tables began to turn. Nearly every member had started picking up guns, and LA Capone, deeply affected by Lil Steve's death, was one of them.
You know, Steve, he a bug. It's to a point now where, you feel me, folks and them died, he like, nah, fuck that, nigga. That bitch ass nigga they trying to get his son say they just kill folks. Man, Lil Steve walked to that nigga crib and put slugs all through that bitch. No cap. Went to the Scrap crib, put slugs all through that motherfucker on phone now. Feel me? Like, he real live. No talking, no nothing. He walked right over there. Put slugs all through that bitch. He put slugs all through Scrap crib. No cap. He lit that bitch up like a Christmas tree. Lil Steve wanna play. He said, fuck it, we can't never catch this bitch ass nigga coming out the crib. His daddy wanna keep walking over here and try to call peace streets. Nah, man, they done killed folk. Something to go on. Man, he walked the Blood Bride crib, man, and put slugs in that motherfucker, man. He say, I don't give a fuck who in there. This nigga Lil Steve was crazy, man. He ain't get no fuck.
As mentioned earlier, the tables turned not long after Lil Steve's death. Less than 2 months later, 600 got revenge, not on Mob, but on Jaro City, targeting Tutu, one of the members believed responsible for Jizzle's murder. On November 10, 2011, Tutu was in an alley smoking on the 6500 block of South Roads when C-Day allegedly ran up and shot him multiple times. Buka, Rondo, and Tay Capone were reportedly with him, and some say Rondo also fired shots. Ironically, just a few months earlier, Rondo and Tay had caught Tutu and Corey from Jaro City in that same alley. Tutu escaped, but Corey was shot and survived. The spot was known as a Jaro hangout, so 600 often checked it looking for rivals. After Tutu's death, His set formed 2-2 gang in his memory. Right after the murder, C-Day reportedly called FBG Duck to mock him, a common move in Chicago's street wars. 2-2's funeral was later shot up by 600 members, including C-Day, Rondo, Bite Down, and Manny, though they quickly fled when they realized most of the crowd were families. The preacher later said he still suffers from PTSD. Following the killing, mocking 2-2 became routine. C-Day infamously tweeted in 2012, "I'll dig Carlton's grave up and re-kill him." The beef was deeply personal. 2-2 had fought and shot at 600 members before, killed Jizzle from Squirt Town, and once nearly caught C-Day himself. After his death, nearly every 600 member, including LA Capone, taunted him relentlessly. Now we move into 2012, a year often called the golden era of drill, for better or worse. It's also the year LA Capone reportedly caught his first and only body, died in August 2012. O Block lost White, which sparked a desire for revenge against Jarrow City. LA's close friend J Money was involved, motivated not only by White's death but also by a personal conflict over a girl named Lisa. She had multiple relationships. She was the mother of J Money's son but was also messing around with P5, also known as Crack, a major drug dealer from Jarrow City. P5 made money off dealing and was a high-profile member from Jarrow. Since A Block and 600 also wanted a member from Jarrow badly, they decided to set up P5 and carry out the hit. 600 and O Block devised a plan to lure 23-year-old Derek Johnson, also known as P5, into a trap. They made him believe he was meeting someone to buy drugs on the 6200 block of South Eberhard Avenue, which was Jarrow City's main territory. P5 agreed to the meetup at 9:13 a.m., but instead of a buyer, he was confronted by LA Capone, J Money, Big A, King Von, and Manny from 600. As soon as he saw them, P5 tried to run, but J Money caught up and shot him in the back. He fell to the ground, but the attack didn't stop there. LA Capone and the others stood over him, firing 6 shots into his face and 9 more into his body. It was a brutal and merciless killing. After the shooting, they left him at the scene. When paramedics and police arrived, the body was so badly damaged that identification was difficult. Derek was transported to John H. Strowger, Jr. Hospital of Cook County, where he was pronounced dead. News of P5's murder spread quickly, and it didn't take long for J Money to start taunting both P5 and his ex on Twitter. Just 3 days after the killing, he tweeted things like 45 hit his dreadlocks and P5 you got some weed. That's crazy that you sleep. On the same day, J Money himself was targeted in an assassination attempt. While driving alone near King Drive, FBG Butter caught him in traffic and opened fire on his car. But J Money managed to escape unharmed. Undeterred, J Money continued mocking P5 on social media and essentially admitted involvement when he tweeted, "I got crack." Manny, King Von, and LA Capone also posted on Twitter, mocking P5 by highlighting how many bullets he had taken and reinforcing that OB 600 was active. The day after P5's murder, 600 lost a member of their own, Trix. He was shot while sitting in his car on the 5700 block of South Prairie Avenue, allegedly by Kiddo from 051 Young Money. However, many 600 members, including Cide and Rondo Number 9, claimed that Trix was not actually a member but an innocent bystander. Cide even went as far as tweeting F-Trix, despite having spent time with him just days earlier. Most of the other 600 members paid their respects but also emphasized that Trix was not formally part of the set. LA was very active during this period in 2012. Just 6 days before the murder of P5, he was involved in a shooting outside Dunbar High School, the same incident King Von referenced in his song Wait when he rapped, "I shot up Dunbar with Law, M-Hang, and Mikado." What many don't know is the full story behind that line. The incident occurred on October 24, 2012, when a few Brick Squad members jumped blast his ass and Trix from 600. After hearing about it, LA Capone, M-Thang, Mikado, and King Von pulled up to Dunbar to retaliate. The first Brick Squad member they spotted outside the school was CJ. Von fired at him but didn't hit anyone, and the group quickly fled the scene. Not long after, people on Twitter began mocking 600 for the failed shooting, claiming they only fired a single shot from a .22 caliber gun. It was also around this time that LA Capone began experimenting with music. freestyling with his friends and having fun in the studio, though he hadn't released any official tracks yet. That changed in November 2012, when he dropped his first freestyle, Work, along with a music video. To understand the context, you have to look at what was happening in Chicago at that time. In 2012, the city's drill scene exploded after Chief Keef, a BD-affiliated rapper from a block in Front Street, released a string of hit songs. On March 6, 2012, Keef dropped his breakout single I Don't Like, which eventually reached number 93 on the Billboard Hot 100, earned a remix from Kanye West, and went double platinum. With that track, Chief Keef put Chicago drill, essentially gangster rap 2.0, on the map. For members of 600, who were closely allied with the BDs from a block in Front Street, this sudden surge of attention created a huge opportunity. 2013 would become the year when 600 started making serious noise in the Chicago drill scene. Artists like Ide, S-Dot and Young Famous had already been consistently dropping drill tracks since 2011, while others, like Rondo and C-Day, had also been experimenting with music during that period. By 2012, Ide had become the face of 600 in the rap game, even landing a Chief Keef feature on the remix of his song Gucci, released right as Keef's fame was skyrocketing with I Don't Like. But by the end of that same year, another rising 600 member was ready to step into the spotlight, LA Capone. Together with his close friends Rondo No. 9 and Tay600, LA would take the momentum surrounding 600 and push it to the next level as 2013 began. In January 2013, LA Capone released his first major hit, a track that would become a classic example of Chicago drill at its peak, Murder. In the music video, someone even holds up a sign listing several gangs that appeared to be allied both in the streets and in music: O Block with Chief Keef, Limron/OTF with Lil Durk, and Baldy World, another name for 600, alongside Front Street. This visual showed that LA Capone and 600 were gaining support from local crews and some of the city's biggest rising drill stars. With Murder, LA positioned himself to become the most prominent rapper to emerge from 600. The song itself was widely popular, featuring a hook where LA detailed the minor offenses that could get you killed in his neighborhood, painting a raw and stark picture of the deadly street life in 600. He remained very active in music during this period, making it clear he had ambitions to become a star in drill. Just 6 days after Murder dropped, LA released Face Down with Rondo No. 9, another track that quickly became popular locally. The two would go on to become a dynamic duo, dropping numerous classic drill songs together. The following month, LA Capone released a track featuring S-Dot and Rondo No. 9. Another dark drill song with lyrics highlighting 600 members as ruthless and successful against their enemies. Unlike his previous grim murder drill tracks, this song incorporated melodic auto-tune and a slightly more uplifting style, showcasing LA's versatility on the mic. This kind of experimentation was rare in Chicago at the time and was mainly being explored by the biggest drill stars, Chief Keef and Lil Durk, putting LA in a prime position to rise in the scene. During this period, LA Capone's work rate was unmatched. Just a day after one release, he dropped the music video for Shooters alongside Rondo No. 9, another track that showcased his skillful flow. On June 10, 2013, 600 released their first official group anthem, 6-0, featuring Ide, LA Capone, S-Dot, and Rondo No. 9. The accompanying video opens with a jail call from D. Rose, who was incarcerated at the time, and includes cameos from numerous 600 members: 600 Breezy, Honcho, Jubilo, Tay600, Young Famous, and O Block members like Boss Top and J Money, who tragically passed away later that year. Fans of drill music often point to this era as a defining moment. The energy and output of 600 in 2013 left a lasting mark on the scene, with many considering it the group's musical prime. Some even refer to this period as the golden age of Chicago drill, reflecting on the era when so many of its key figures were alive and actively releasing music. The influence of this period extended beyond Chicago, as artists like 6ix9ine have cited Rondo No. 9 as a key inspiration for starting their own rap careers. Amid all this momentum, LA Capone and Rondo dropped their biggest hit on July 30th, 2013, releasing the video for their collaboration Play for Keeps, which today has over 60 million views. The track, a pure drill anthem, is widely regarded as one of the best Chicago drill songs of all time and was the moment that solidified LA Capone as a potential superstar in the Chicago drill scene. The music video even featured a cameo from Lil Durk, who would go on to become one of the biggest names to emerge from Chicago drill. By September 2013, 600 had all the momentum in the booming Chicago drill scene. Coupled with their serious street reputation, the set now boasted a roster of talented rappers and, for a relatively small crew, was clearly ahead of many of their Chicago contemporaries, racking up millions of streams on their tracks. LA Capone himself seemed destined for stardom, with the perfect opportunity to leave the streets behind and achieve major success as an artist. Unfortunately, everything changed on the night of September 26, 2013, at the studio, a fateful night that would alter the course of 600 forever. September 26th stands as one of the darkest days in the history of 600, and arguably in the history of Chicago drill as a whole. The day LA Capone's life was tragically cut short. To truly grasp what unfolded, it helps to follow the events from the very start of that day. Between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., LA Capone, together with J.B. Bin Laden from 400D and Ocho from O Block, attended a court hearing for a trespassing case. The three spent several hours handling the legal matter before returning home briefly to regroup. After a short break, they decided to head to a studio to work on music. Around 3 p.m., LA Capone and J.B. Bin Laden arrived at a studio on the second floor of 7034S. Stony Island, a block under the control of Zolan/ABM. While it wasn't considered hostile territory, it also wasn't their own block, making it technically neutral ground. Some members from both O Block and 600 had family connections to people from Zolan/ABM, which may have made the location feel somewhat safer, though it was still risky. During the session, LA and JB spent roughly 2.5 hours recording before wrapping up and preparing to leave. A video from that session, recorded by JB, still exists today and carries an unsettling weight, knowing what would soon happen. In the footage, LA Capone is seen performing his song Brothers, a track that now feels especially poignant, as it would become one of his final recordings.
What that is though? Just record. This gonna be a hit song, man. You recording this shit? Get this shit on camera, man. Get this shit on fuck.
While LA Capone was in the studio with JB, Lil Mick and Rockhead from 051 Young Money, along with Mako from Met Boys, were at a barbecue near 51st and Prairie. During the gathering, Rockhead, also known as Rocco, received a call from Hard Knock, a member of 035-757. On the phone, Hard Knock told Rockhead that LA Capone was at the studio dissing 051YM in a song. Interestingly, Hard Knock was actually at the studio himself, working on a rap track alongside LA, JB, a former 051YM member, and the studio owner. At that time, 035-757 wasn't considered an enemy set, despite its connections to 051 Young Money. In fact, There were family ties between 635-757, and Hard Knock was primarily seen as a music engineer rather than a gang member. After the call, Rockhead, Mako, and Lil Mick contacted Big A from 051 Young Money and met him at a gas station on 67th and Stony Island. From there, they split into two vehicles and drove to the studio, parking a few houses down on opposite ends of the alley. They waited in their cars for 20 to 30 minutes, anticipating LA Capone's exit. When LA and JB exited through the back of the studio, they sat on the porch waiting for a ride. After a few minutes, LA Capone grew impatient, perhaps sensing something was off, and started walking home while talking on the phone, likely trying to arrange transportation. Capone, known then as Day 600, had offered him a ride that day but wouldn't have been able to arrive for about 10 minutes. LA declined and chose to walk instead, since his home wasn't far. There are rumors that LA texted Lil Durk at that moment, inspired by lyrics in Durk's song Made It Out, where he says, "I was so high, I wish I replied to LA's text." However, this isn't accurate. The text was sent earlier in the day and was not a request for a ride. Around the same time, Hard Knock left the studio, accompanied by Snoop from 757. As LA Capone entered the alley wearing a black hoodie, Lil Mick immediately spotted him. He exited his car and approached stealthily, firing 2 shots, one into Law's lower right back, lodging just above his kidney, and another into his upper right thigh, exiting through the inner groin. LA collapsed to the ground. Lil Mick attempted to finish the attack by emptying his magazine, but the gun jammed. He then ran north up the alley, returned to his car, and both vehicles sped off. JB, still on the porch when it happened, immediately ran to LA, who was lying on the ground, and tried to help him while shouting, "Bro, you're good, bro." Minutes later, paramedics arrived and transported LA to Northwestern Hospital. He was conscious at the time, telling them that a car had pulled into the alley before he heard 5 or 6 shots. He described the shooter as wearing a black hoodie, who ran back to the car before they all fled. When asked if he could identify the shooter, LA replied, "I don't know." LA lost consciousness in the ambulance and never regained it, ultimately passing away during surgery around 8:30 p.m. Notably, he had been shot in the same general area, his right upper rear thigh, a year earlier by Boss Trail from STL/EBT. This previous injury may have contributed to why his wounds proved fatal. Later that same night, all 4 involved in LA Capone's murder met in Washington Park to discuss the fact that they had successfully carried out the killing. Interestingly, Lil Mick and LA Capone, despite their violent history, lived relatively close to each other. Lil Mick on the 7000 block of S. Chapel Avenue and LA on the 7000 block of S. Bennett Avenue, roughly half a mile apart. The studio where the shooting occurred was situated between their homes, making it about an equal distance from both. Hard Knock, who orchestrated the setup, was very familiar with the studio and visited it frequently. During police questioning, he denied knowing about LA's conflicts with 051 or being familiar with Rocco, Mako, Big A, or Lil Mick, and claimed he didn't make any phone calls. However, later in the investigation, a former 051 member who was at the studio admitted that Hard Knock did call Rocco, though he claimed it was supposedly just to invite him to smoke weed. Both the 051 member and the studio owner saw through the excuse, recognizing it as a setup, and told Hard Knock to call Rockhead back and warned him not to come, knowing the danger if 051 encountered LA. Despite this warning, the 051 members ignored it and carried out their plan, ultimately leading to LA Capone's death. As many of you know, all three individuals involved in the hit were arrested and charged with the murder. Bigga would have also faced arrest, but she was killed on November 14, 2013, allegedly by Bezu from THF 46. Rockhead was the first to be arrested, on August 20, 2014. Lil Mick was taken into custody the following day on the 21st, and Mako was arrested on the 22nd. All three individuals arrested cooperated with the police and turned on each other. Rockhead implicated Lil Mick as the one who killed LA. Mick, in turn, snitched on THF 46 for Big A's murder. Mako also pointed the finger at Mick, claiming he was the shooter and refused to let him back in the car. Lil Mick, caught in the middle, ended up being snitched on and then snitched back in a desperate attempt to avoid jail. Initially, Lil Mick was sentenced to 60 years in prison, but about a month ago, he won his appeal and had his sentence reduced to 20 years, meaning he'll be released in 2034. In 2017, Rockhead received a 30-year sentence and is set for release in 2038. Mako, on the other hand, was sentenced to 45 years and is expected to be released in 2059. I don't think many people truly understand how much of an impact LA Capone's murder had on 600 as a whole. He was literally their ticket out, one of the most talented rappers in the city and the face of 600. He was best friends with Rondo, C-Day, Tay Capone, and D-Rose, and what many forget is that LA Capone actually had a body under his belt. He put in real work on the streets. Tay Capone even mentioned in his song Way Back that he was out looking for Lil Mick's mother, and there's even a rumor that Lil Durk slid with Rondo and C-Day before they got locked up. Many also forget how close Lil Durk was with LA Capone, C-Day, Rondo, and the rest. His death affected him deeply. The murder of LA Capone was truly the beginning of 600's downfall. It's almost hard to describe just how much his death shook the group, but the events that followed speak for themselves. Within months, 600 began to implode from the inside. Members from THF, 600, O-Block, Front Street, Lamron, Daytown, and even Folly Boys slid relentlessly on Young Money after LA Capone's death. His murder impacted all of them deeply, especially since 051 Young Money was behind it. They were determined to get revenge, and in the end, they succeeded. Their target wasn't just anyone, it was 051's most well-known member, the rapper Lil Mark, who had put 051 Young Money on the map. On March 25, 2014, just 3 days before he was killed, Lil Mark dropped his most popular and controversial song, No Competition, a remix of Lil Durk's Competition featuring Lil Reese. In his version, Lil Mark dissed multiple rival sets, including Brick Squad, Wugga World, and King Lil J. But what really fueled the tension was his mockery of several deceased members from 600, Lamron, and O Block, including LA Capone. The timing of his death was no coincidence. That song played a major role in sealing his fate. Lil Mark wasn't just a rapper, he was also considered one of 051's top members and was rumored to have been involved in the 2011 killing of Tony from THF 46, alongside D Streets from Young Money. No competition gained massive attention across Chicago, angering many and making Lil Mark a prime target. Since 600, O Block, and THF 46 couldn't get to those directly responsible for LA Capone's murder, as most were either locked up or on the run, Lil Mark became their next best option. A rapper for a rapper. As Lil Durk said in 1773 Vulture, "If we can't find you, we gon' kill your artist." 051 killed 600's biggest artist, and in retaliation, AB 600 and THF killed 051's biggest artist. It was that simple. In summary, LA Capone's death was a monumental loss, not just for 600, but for the entire drill scene. In 2013, his music career was on a steep upward trajectory, and many expected him to become the next big rap superstar out of Chicago. Even though his life was cut short, LA Capone's influence on drill music has endured, leaving a lasting legacy. In 2014, New York drill legend Pop Smoke tweeted that LA Capone was his favorite rapper, a likely inspiration for the Brooklyn star to start his own career. LA Capone created numerous songs that became classics in the Chicago drill scene. 600 Breezy even believed that, at just 17, LA could have become the biggest artist from Chicago if he had lived. He had connections with future stars like G Herbo, who attended school with him and later paid tribute to LA on Instagram. Ultimately, LA Capone's story stands as one of the most tragic wastes of talent in Chicago history. He had the potential to be one of the greats, but his ties to the streets of 600 both fueled his music and led to his enemies targeting him. For 600, his murder marked the first of many setbacks, proving that no matter how much talent someone possesses, a single wrong move in the streets of Chicago can end everything in an instant. For others, being on the opposite side of the gun would be the misstep that ultimately led to their downfall. Moving into 2014, several 600 members with potentially bright futures would make mistakes that ended their opportunities to escape street life, ultimately landing decades behind bars. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe, and may God bless you all. Let me know what you want to see next.